Hello and welcome to Cinemania. My name is Ellis Charles Hoffmeister, and I'm going to talk about film today on this Friday, this lovely Friday, which I think is the 12th. I really need to figure out when the days are. And over the last couple of days, I watched one new film, Piggy, which was from last year, I think. And then I watched two old ones that I've seen many, many a time, Pieces and The Final Terror. So this is a full horror-themed Cinemania. The first one I'll talk about is Piggy, which is a film about, it's a Spanish film, about an overweight teenager who is tormented by her peers, and then vengeance ensues in a way that you're not prepared for. You're not prepared for. And it doesn't go where you think it's gonna go. And that is both a great thing about the film and also a very confusing, well, no, not confusing, just not where you think it's gonna go. The film is a lot of fun. It was at Sundance last year, I believe. And it is currently streaming on Hulu. And yeah, it's just a good old-fashioned revenge film that's covered in blood and teenage torment. It's very, like, the whole first half of it, you feel so bad for the lead character that you're just like, kill them all. Like, kill them all. And basically that's kind of the feeling you have through the entire thing. And once bloodshed starts ensuing, you're like, sure, take it, fine. But I would give it, 4 out of 5. Ugh, it's my worst fear ever, swimming next to a dead body. Because it's wonderful, except for the last, I would say, last section. The last section of it. It's Friday, y'all. And then, of course, I watched Pieces, which is another Spanish film with insane English dubbing, and is a classic of horror cinema from 1983. I think the tagline was, "It's exactly what you think it is," and was capitalizing off of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and takes place at a college where there are wild tennis lesson scenes and two stars of television that and I don't know where we're going with this today, y'all. But what I'm going to say is that Pieces is one of Eli Roth's favorite films of all time, and it is a film that has one of the best last-minute, horrible, violent scenes ever. And it's essentially about a person with a chainsaw hacking people up. And that is a terrible review, and that is what I'm going to give it. And then, of course, I watched The Final Terror with a friend of mine who had never seen it before, and while we were watching it, I was like, oh, it kind of reminds me of Deliverance. So if you don't like movies like Deliverance or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you're gonna love these. And I would say that The Final Terror is fun because I think the director is Andrew Davis, who went on to direct The Fugitive, and it's, from the 80s and sat on a shelf for 2 years, so by the time it was released, some of its stars had become bigger names, like Daryl Hannah, who's in it but has almost no dialogue. Joe Pantoliano is just doing his Joe Pants thing. I'm gonna call him Joe Pants. And yeah, it's essentially about a bunch of, I don't know, like camper core kids who go off into the woods, and then something starts hunting them down. And it's fun. It's kind of one of those horror films where not a ton happens, and then it does, and then there are heads. Basically, the last 3 days of film watching has been films where there's a lot of dismemberment, so horror it is. Anyway, I hope that you all have a great weekend, and I would say I give Pieces 4 out of 5 puzzles. Puzzles was the word I was looking for. I woke up right before doing this video, so that will tell you why I'm real sleepy. And basically you're just watching me slowly lose my mind over on this channel. So there you go. And yeah, I'd give it 4 out of 5 naked puzzles of Victoria Abril, who I believe was in Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, which is the first Almodovar film I ever saw, and he's one of my favorite directors. And also has that guy from Dune in it, I found out, so that's interesting. And the lead guy who looks like a bunch of other, like, 60s to 80s TV stars, who is in Enter the Dragon as well. And, but I thought it was Richard Crenna, but it definitely wasn't. I think his name's Christopher George. And The Final Terror, I'd give 3 out of 5 tin can murder devices. So, there. Have a great Friday. If you want to watch something for the weekend, I would recommend The Hunger. If you're into horror and David Bowie and Susan Sarandon and Catherine Deneuve, and if you're not into that, The Jerk, Steve Martin, Bernadette Peters. So those are the films I just looked down and saw that are some of my favorites. So have a great weekend. Bye-bye.